Hi, Story Wilson with RSW Solutions. So, some vehicle owners of the LR3 truck report some stumbling of the idle, or perhaps you get the message on the dash of reduced engine performance. Personally, one of the symptoms I get is whenever I'm rolling up to a stop sign and put on the brakes and the car pitches forward as soon as I let off the brake, the engine will stall. I mean, it won't stall completely, but it will drop way low, below a couple hundred RPM, and stumble. Some people report the exact same symptoms, but the vehicle will actually stall and die. Some people will report the same symptoms of a fluctuating idle, but while driving on the highway. So there's clearly something going on. The most important thing to do is to check the usual suspects first. And by usual suspects, I mean to just visually inspect the engine, looking at hoses and lines, these vacuum lines, making sure that everything is snug, not broken, cracked, not leaking, everything's intact. These worm gear clamps, these Jubilee clamps, are secured. There are no leaks between the throttle body and the intake the intake plenum. Just making sure there are no obvious leaks. That's your first thing to do. Second thing, in order of ease, clean the mass airflow sensor. Really easy to do. I have a video showing how to do that. Next, clean your air filter. I mean, get a new air filter, throw it in there. You should be doing that anyway. Air filter, mass airflow sensor. Third, if you have access, have the fault codes read, if there are any fault codes at all. But be careful, because fault codes can sometimes be misleading. They don't always point to the exact problem, but rather a symptom. These computers can guess what's wrong, and sometimes they get confused. Now, some of the forums say that this is a coil pack diode or coil pack capacitor issue. And that part, the coil pack capacitor, is back here. It's a very inexpensive part. It's maybe $20. So I don't really see the harm in replacing it if it's known to fail. I don't really see how it would cause all of these problems. To me, what makes more sense are reports that it's the throttle body, and that a really good cleaning of the throttle body may be in order. So let's go over some of the steps to replace, to clean and refit the throttle body instead of replacing it. Okay, so as we were saying, we're going to inspect the pipes and checking the obvious things, but now we're going to look at the throttle body assembly and get in there. Real simple to get in there. We're going to go ahead and do this in real time. Loosen up these clips. This one I think I already loosened up. Yep. I'm going to pop off this. Looks like it's a crankcase breather. Should just come off. There it is. Wiggle the plenum here. There we go. That should just come off. There it is. Put that aside. Looking in the throttle body now, I can see a considerable amount of oil and varnish. That is, believe it or not, a good sign. That is a great sign. I've never been so more pleased to see dirt in my life, because that is going to be a problem. This oil and varnish that's collected in here, well, there's a lot, is going to interfere with the operation of that throttle body, its ability to close and meter the air properly. So we're going to remove this throttle body. It looks pretty straightforward. There appear to just be 4 bolts or so here that attach it to the intake, plenum. Looks like the intake plenum has coolant circulating through it. So we're going to see if we just remove this throttle body, clean it out thoroughly. Just about done here. This really does look like it's going to be extremely simple to do. All these bolts appear to be the same length. Yep, all the same length. And this throttle body is going to come right off without any trouble. Looks like, yeah, there's some coolant lines that circulate coolant through the throttle body housing. And there's this multi-plug here. Let's see if we can get this off real quick so I can show you how bad this throttle body is, how gummy it looks, because this is a very good sign as to what was causing my problem with idle. That is a tremendous amount of oil sitting there on the back side of that throttle body. That is nasty. I mean, that is just some disgusting varnish there. So we're going to clean this out. And you know what? I bet you that's going to solve a lot of the idle problems that I have, and hopefully it'll solve some of the idle problems you have as well. And looking at that intake manifold, my gosh, there is a lot of, you know, that brown oil, that baked on oil appearance. I wonder where all that oil is coming from. I guess it just must be the breather valve. It's strange that they put the crankcase breather valve upstream of the throttle body, so that all of these contaminated gases coming from the crankcase, with would have lots of oil particulates in it, are going to go straight through the throttle body, a delicate part of the intake. That's strange they wouldn't put it after. It's an interesting design. So, clean this out, and I bet you we'll be good to go. So here we have our patient laid out in front of us. And take note, as I mentioned before, there are coolant lines that are attached to the coolant system, so this throttle body is heated. So I'm not going to disconnect those. I'm not even going to attempt it. Who knows? It could be easy to disconnect and you're not going to have any coolant spill everywhere. It could be the case, because it is pretty high up in the engine, but I just don't want to mess with it. We don't have to. So I twisted it around. I got some absorbent paper laid out. I don't actually have any carburetor cleaner, but this should do. We'll see. Any good mechanic worth his salt should have some carburetor cleaner, but I don't. Ran out. Used it in a different project. But yeah, I really need some carburetor cleaner. That's not so bad. We're just going to keep cleaning this up. And really, I bet you this is going to make a big difference in the performance. Alright, so we finished cleaning. And by the way, I did find some good old-fashioned carburetor cleaner. If you don't have carburetor cleaner, you can use things like gasoline or any other, highly refined hydrocarbon. So here we are. It's mostly clean. Make sure that you open it and gently and clean this surface. Also cleaning the inside surfaces as well. Gosh, part of me really wants to get in here and make sure that this assembly is clean as possible, where the shaft runs into the body here, into the motor assembly and the gearing assembly. I don't think it's necessary to open this up. It's probably not meant to be opened up. So just make sure you really spray with some force the cleaner up into this area to make sure it's really clean. And that should be it. So we're going to reassemble this. Also take note that there is in fact a gasket on the assembly, throttle body assembly to the intake plenum. Make sure that gasket's not disturbed. Make sure it goes back on. And when you put everything back together, just double check everything's seated properly, everything's in place, everything's sealed up, there are no air leaks, and hopefully this solves my problem.